Well, next up, we have another young entrepreneur, Justine Sheu. She's the CEO and co-founder of ProUp. Justine is an urban educator, serial entrepreneur, and armchair philosopher. I love it. After spending her early career teaching and counseling in the Detroit Public Schools, she founded Enact Your Future to provide low-income students with test prep and scholarship essay writing classes to improve their chances for college admissions. Her second venture, ProUp, connects students to educational and career experiences like summer programs, internships, and job shadows through personalized notifications. Let's hear it for Justine Sheu.
Hi, everyone. You guys are already so much better than a classroom of 20 students on a Saturday morning. So before I start, I wanted to share really that I'm so delighted to be here with you all. One, to support the amazing work that David Tarver, who's actually an advisor of mine, is doing with the symposium, but also because as much as I love my pitch, and I have done my pitch probably more than 100 times, it feels really good to be able to just get up here and tell you guys how it is, like it is. Because you can't always do that in a pitch. So I'm really excited to share my story with you all today. And with that, let's get rolling. As far as the clicker goes, just point? All right. So, I'm CEO and founder of Enact Your Future, and CEO and one of the co-founders of ProUp. And whenever people ask me why I started my businesses, I love it, because it's one of the very few questions about my life to which there's a relatively, simple answer. And that is, I saw a problem in the community that I served, and I wanted to do something about it, period. It's that simple. I wanted to design a solution that was both lasting and scalable, and to change the way that people did things by building a new model that was superior to the existing system. That's what I believe innovation is, okay? So, I chose the space of education because I start from a very simple premise. I believe that the mind is where everything starts. It's the genesis of everything. Education and knowledge is what enables us to become self-determining human beings who can envision a goal and direct our efforts towards it. It literally enables us to choose our futures and to create our own reality. But the inverse of that is also true. The inverse of this is also true, in that we can only envision and aspire towards that to which we are exposed. As some have said, you can only be what you see. And one of the most fundamental problems that continues to plague our society is that in some of the most impoverished neighborhoods in this country, children are being systematically undereducated. So that they're emerging from 12 years in the public education system, 12 years in the public education system, barely literate, barely numerate, and thereby mentally and structurally predisposed to one of two options: a dead-end job or a life that leads to prison. This is the cycle of undereducation, underemployment, and mass incarceration. And some would say it's by design. Some would say it's by design. So I spent the early part of my career as a college counselor in DPS. These are some of my former students, by the way, at Cody High School. Anybody know Cody? All right. So, as a college counselor and a test prep instructor, I continuously witnessed firsthand some of the major failures of the education system that I was part of. As a naive college advisor, I was so excited my first year when I sent the vast majority of my graduating senior class off to college, okay? But within 1 year, how many of those students do you think were still at a four-year university? 110. Out of a graduating class of 86 seniors, within 1 year, I had 4 students left in college. And that was a blow. Because like most educators who really put your heart on the line, you take that personally. What can I do about this situation? And when I really started to think about it, I thought, well, the so-called achievement gap in education is the source, or is really caused by 3 fundamental things. It's not an achievement gap, because there is no fundamental ability in our students, or difference in our students' ability to achieve. There's an opportunity gap, there's an information gap, and there's an expectations gap. And those drive enduring inequalities in how our students are achieving. So I asked myself, where can I start? Because as much as I would love to be the one that undoes the patterns of deeply entrenched residential segregation that have been produced by a series of federal, state, and municipal policies and have led to the current segregation in our education system, that's not where I can best direct my efforts, at least not right now. Future plans, though. Future plans. It's coming. So I said, where can I attack the opportunities gap? Well, let's start with this simple fact. The #1 barrier to so many of my students to being able to access college was not their GPAs. It was the ACT and the SAT, the so-called gateways of colleges and universities, standardized admissions tests, okay? And if you take a look at the numbers, I don't need to tell you the story, because they speak for themselves. So what are the realistic chances that one of my students can attend a 4-year university where they have a shot? Not one of those predatory universities, because believe it or not, any student anywhere can get into any 4-year college because they do want your federal Pell Grant. So not a college where they'll take you with a 13 on your ACT and a 2.0 GPA, but a college where somebody who looks like you and comes from a city like you has a reasonable chance of success because the support is there. And when you look at the numbers, the story speaks for itself. Now here's the problem. It wasn't for lack of desire or ambition. I had hundreds of students who wanted help and desperately needed help and were committed to getting help on these entrance exams. But there were no options in the city that were affordable, accessible, or effective. Has anybody heard of the Princeton Review? All right, so I used to teach for them. And do you know how much a class costs for the Princeton Review? It's anywhere between $800 and $1,000. And by the way, they don't run them in Detroit. They run them in Birmingham, Novi, Ann Arbor. All right, and if you want the Princeton Review at your school has to pay so much money that is ridiculous. That's half of their Title I funding right there, if you want to bring in the Princeton Review or Kaplan. So what I set out to do was create an alternative business model. I asked myself, how can I be the service in the city of Detroit that is providing affordable, accessible, and highly effective test prep that's going to engage my students and increase their odds at getting into college with the scholarship assistance that they need. So here's me with some of my students. And as glamorous as it sounds, Detroit Edison Public School Academy is where I first started launching my classes. This was in December of 2014 when I spontaneously quit my job. Thank you. I fondly refer to it as the anniversary of my liberation. And I celebrate it every year. So, when I started my company, Enact, I was one person, and I had an assistant who was a former student of mine who I hired, who would ride the bus for more than an hour from Oak Park and bike through the winter to help me run my classes at this school. I was one person, and every Saturday I taught a class of anywhere from 20 to 35 students. And in order to make this happen, I had to walk away from a successful career as an educator in Detroit with, enough disposable income for a single person without children to enjoy a fine quality of life, and a very sexy loft in Corktown, Detroit. And I moved in with my ex, who was my ex, not my ex at the time, by the way, so like things were bad, but they weren't like that bad. We were together at the time. I have my boundaries. So, do you know what my annual gross income was in 2015 that I reported on my taxes? It's less than $6,000. That's what the first year of entrepreneurship looked like for me. Less than $6,000. But I refused to stop because I knew somebody had to find the model. And I started to hit on it in January of this year. So, I figured out that the primary revenue stream for my business had to come not from the families, but from high schools and partner organizations. And since January of 2016, that's what started to happen. I also figured out the best marketing strategy is to create value for the users that you serve and establish your expertise in that domain, and then people will seek you out. So I started circulating a free monthly scholarship newsletter, and I started speaking at a variety of counseling events. Since January, I've grown to service more than 1,000 students at 6 public school districts across inner city and metro Detroit. And I now have a team of 6 instructors, one of who's here tonight. Thank you, Don. I now have a team of 6 instructors. And what I'm proudest of is our results. Our results. Students who took our ACT program that was 30 hours long increased their composite score by an average of between 2 and 3 points. Some going up by as much as 7 points on their ACT. Yep. And we're just not getting our data from the SAT, but our students have gone up between 80 and 100 points. Some as much as 290 points from our spring SAT data. That's what keeps me running.
Right.
In addition to the other company that I started. So around this time, in 2014, when I was already kind of flirting with the idea of leaving my job, there was another problem that 2 educators and I have really been contemplating. That was, a number of us had experiences with students like Tanisha. So Tanisha was a student of mine at Cody High School, and she grew up without role models in her life, without parents. She grew up being shuttled back and forth between grandma and auntie, and there was literally no one in her life who even finished high school, okay? So imagine, she wants to go to college, and she knows that's the path to a better life, but she literally has no idea what it is she wants to study. What occupations do you think she's been exposed to in her family? Right. Retail, beautician, or drug dealers. That's what she was looking at. So when Tanisha came to me for help, I spent hours scouring my networks, okay, and searching through this repository of information about summer programs and camps and mentoring groups and leadership opportunities that I could put her in to get her connected to role models. And I finally found these 2 opportunities which I knew would be a good fit. One was an accounting career awareness program at Wayne State, sponsored by the National Association of Black Accountants, and the other was Camp Moxie, a women's leadership and mentoring group. And through these opportunities, by the way, I really had to fight to get her there. There's a reason I don't have children. She called me every day on the phone for the first 3 days telling me to come pick her up, and I was like, nope, 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 and then she stopped calling. By the end of these programs, Tanisha fell in love with what she was doing. She met role models to guide her, like very successful women who took her under their wing. And she discovered that accounting was her dream career. And she literally won a scholarship through one of these programs that enabled her to be the first in her family to go to a 4-year college. All through 2 opportunities, exposure to 2 opportunities that literally changed the trajectory of her life. But the reality that I face, along with other counselors in the state of Michigan, is this. On average, we're serving more than 700 students, and we simply do not have the time to connect every last student with the information, the resources, and the opportunities, okay, to expose them to their educational and career options. Now, here's another visual to help you understand what I was able to do for Tanisha is not scalable. Because while I can do that for one student, I can't filter this huge volume of information and literally match up every student knowing what their personal and career interests are. So my colleagues Miles Morgan and Justin Cook and I set out to devise a solution. And that solution is ProUp. ProUp is a web app that matches high school students to educational and career experiences like summer programs, internships, and jobs. And it's all personalized based on their interests. It's very simple. They say, this is who I am, where I live, and what I'm interested in. And they start to get personalized text notifications every single time an opportunity is posted that aligns with their interests. Now, when we launched ProUp, it was January of 2016, so January was a pretty good month for me, I have to say. Some good things to combat seasonal affective disorder in the mix. So when we launched ProUp, literally, we had no funding for the company, and in order to actually build out our product, I had to pitch at more competitions than you can imagine, and was able to successfully raise more than $50,000 in grant money, so equity-free or non-dilutive capital, in order to fund the development and deployment of our app. And since then, these are our results. This is slightly out of date. We've now got more than 1,700 students, okay, from more than 90 high schools, primarily in inner city, but also some in Metro Detroit, who are on our site. 1 in 5 students who receives a notification is actually applying. That tells you something. When the students receive the opportunities, they want to take advantage.
That's right.
And this is one way for us to combat the information gap, because there's too many amazing opportunities and resources that our students are simply not getting exposed to, because they're all getting funneled through the bottleneck of the school system. These are some of our early partners I'm really excited to share. The Detroit College Access Network, obviously my other company is up there, the Downtown Youth Boxing Gym, and the Detroit Economic Club recently partnered with us to launch ProUp as part of their Career Readiness Academy. University of Michigan Center for Engineering and Diversity Outreach is also one of our early supporters and clients. They actually use ProUp to fill seats for their highly competitive STEM summer program. We've been featured in the Free Press, Techonomy, and most recently in a Forbes article discussing the impact of Detroit's entrepreneurs on the local ecosystem. And I have to say, this is really beyond anything that I could have imagined for myself when I took that first leap and walked away from my job. I wanted to take a moment to highlight my team because one of my advisors is actually the founder of this symposium. So David Tarver has helped us a lot along the way. And like I shared, that's why I'm excited to be able to give a little bit back by being here tonight. My co-founders, Miles and Justin, have spent their early careers as well working in youth development and education in Detroit public schools. And as a matter of fact, all of us have done all of this while still working another full-time job. In my case, it's more like 1.5 times of another job because I run another company. But Miles is currently still the Dean of Culture at Montfort High School in Detroit, and Justin Cook currently still works with Urban Neighborhood Initiatives. So why do I say all that? To say something very simple. As much as I'd like to believe it, I'm not that special. Each of us has encountered real and lasting problems that we see in our communities. And when we look at them, we think to ourselves, this is wrong. Sometimes what it takes to really reveal your character to yourself is to have to make a really difficult decision and say, in spite of logic and in spite of what makes sense, I'm faced with a choice. Accept the reality for what it is and resign myself or do something about it. And that's the only reason that I started my companies. That's the only reason that I started my companies. Through Enact, like I said, I've been able to impact more than 1,000 students in the Metro Detroit area, and we're continuing to grow today. And through ProUp, our mission is really ultimately to create a system that can match any student anywhere in this country to the opportunities that they need to really be able to determine the career options that are best suited for their futures, regardless of how they're socially situated. I invite you all to look at a problem in your community and start to embark on the same path. Thanks so much.